just
Yep.
listen. You know?
Well, they do have a way of making you feel pretty good too, right? I mean, giving you, being around these kinds of guys and giving you that leg up, showing that, you're all able to stand on your own, and it makes you feel pretty good.
Yeah, I think I became a legend in my own mind.
So so now you went away again another time then, right?
I went away for quite a few times. I was in and out a lot of times. Either I say it this way: from 1975 to 1999, I was either incarcerated, waiting for cases, running away from cases,
Mhm.
whatever. That was my life for that period of time. But things did change in '97, and when I finally did get released in '99, my life started a different path. But that was kind of like the life that you lived, you know.
Were you in the Eastern District?
I was in the Eastern District.
Yeah, that's why I didn't see you in the Southern District, because I probably would have caught wind of you there too. Because I was in MDC, MCC, I was in all those places too.
Okay. Well,
So
MCC I was in a couple of times, and
yep,
MDC I was only in once.
yeah. So was I. I was there, did 15 months in the box there. So now, when did you decide to turn your life around? And because I mean, I know I want to get into the ministry that you have and everything like that, but when was it that really hit you where you said, "I'm done with this life and all of this stuff"?
Well, we would have to go back a little bit before that there because
Sure.
I got involved with the drug business.
Okay.
Then the drug business got involved with my business.
Ah, okay.
I became addicted to cocaine. Of course, it was social for a period of time. Just
Hmm.
hanging out and drinking, going out to the disco areas, and you did a little coke here and there. The kind of like the Superfly. I don't know if you ever remember that movie, Superfly.
Sure,
Back,
I do. Sure, I do.
and that was kind of like the cool thing to do. And then
Yeah.
I started getting really bad on the coke, where I was staying up for days at a time. Not
Oh,
going home
that's bad. Yeah.
from one bar to an after hours, you name it, and that's how it was. And then somebody introduced me to freebasing cocaine.
Ooh.
Okay,
Okay.
but for that period of time, now I freebase with this guy that knew how to do it, and I get high a little bit, but then it didn't really affect me when I needed more of it, and I would go home.
Hmm.
And I said, okay, this is probably better for me than the coke because the coke was really bringing me down, and this wasn't. And that lasted for a little bit, and then of
Wow.
course consuming, and then I started losing everything. Everything I'm talking about, everything, respect, everything, because it really consumed me. And then crack cocaine came around, which was the
Right.
cheapest you could possibly get. And since I
Right.
was losing everything, losing ways of making money, and just my reputation, everything was going down the toilet. I got addicted to crack cocaine, and in 1996, I was completely homeless, living in the street.
Wow.
Yes,
Wow. So it really got you then.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
A lot of people don't realize how bad that could be.
Oh man, yeah, and I remember being in a rehab in '93. My girlfriend was going to give birth to my daughter, and I asked them to let me out to go there being birth, and they kind of friends of ours. We knew people in that kind of business, and they let me out, and they said, okay, just stay out and take care of your daughter. You look like you're doing well, and when my daughter was born, I cried like a baby.
Mhm.
You know, I really felt that, okay, now I have another responsibility, somebody else to love other than myself, because I was totally infatuated with myself.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Yeah.
self-centered that I did whatever I pleased and didn't think of the consequences of how it was affecting anybody else around me.
Sure.
So when she was born, and 7 weeks after she's home, I have an argument with her mother, and I think, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna get high, and then I'll come back home. And the old saying, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but one is too many, a thousand's never enough, and
Oh
that
yeah.
played out. That one got me and consumed me, and I didn't go back home. And then after a while, my daughter's mother thought it'd be best that I just stay out and not come back home. So
Wow.
that was the pit of my downfall, and then trying to clean up my act so many times, going into rehabs, moving to Florida, and getting myself back in '94. I moved to Florida. Nikki and them came down to Florida, sent for me. I started doing some things for them. And then before you know it, in '95, I'm back on crack cocaine. And then my mom, after a while, said, you can't stay here no more. I
Wow.
was bring a lot of heartache to my mom. And I was supposed to go back in '96 to go to a rehab.
Hmm.
And I met friends instead and started getting high again. And then eventually that's what happened. I didn't have a place to live and just lived in the streets of Brooklyn in '96
How long have you been clean now?
since '97.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah,
Good for
yeah.
you.
Yeah, and what happened is when I was in Florida doing things with Nikki, there was somebody that was wired up that we were doing business with. So an
Mhm.
indictment came down. And a little bit before that, I got locked up while I was in Brooklyn in '96 for selling crack to an undercover agent, which I really didn't sell it to him. I was cop for him. So this way he would get a little and I would get a little. That's how I was kind of keeping myself high, copping for
Right.
people like that. And I had a case there, and they bailed me out. And I was
Wow.
surprised it was a drug case.
Yeah.
But once I found the feds were looking for me, I didn't go back to court for that case. Long story short, 1997, I fell out. It was January 23rd, 1997. I fell out by somebody's apartment. Because the only time I ever slept was when I blacked out.
Wow.
To stay up for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, getting high, I did. And then if I passed out, that's just how I was. And sometimes it was in the streets, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I passed out. Guy, somebody must have gave information to the warrant officers where I was. So I get a tap on my foot, and I wake up, and, startle a little bit, and I see two guns, and let me know that I was under arrest. Today I call them my angels. Back then I called them my warrant
Yeah. Well,
officers.
of course.
But that was the last time I had a drink and a drug. Was January 23rd, 1997,
Wow. That's excellent. So
and then
now,
I was brought to Rikers Island.
oh, Rocky is another nice place.
Yes,
But,
yes.
so now what made you turn to become a minister?
Well, I want to give you the whole thing if you
Yep.
don't mind. I know you
No,
want to
no.
get. I want to get to that too, to be honest with you, because that's what I do today. But in 1997, I'm locked up in Rikers Island, and my experience of being locked up and waiting for bails, which I knew I wasn't getting a bail because I already was on the lam for jumping bail.
Right.
Uh, Two things I know to do: you got to get a good attorney to get yourself out of the mess you got yourself into. But you got to remember, I was a crackhead with no money,
Right.
so now I have to try to raise money for me. And then I need to get commissary money so I can live as comfortable as I possibly can while I'm incarcerated.
Yep.
So I call up a lot of people, my family, a lot of people, saying, hopefully, there's a couple of favors I did for somebody. And in spite of me being a crackhead, they might want to help me out a little bit, but nobody wanted to help me out
No.
either way. And my daughter's mom was allowing me to talk to my daughter over the phone. And I remember calling up some girl and asking for help, and she said, "Go read your Bible." And of course, I'm looking for an attorney. I'm looking for money. I'm not going to find it in the Bible, so I just figured it's a brush off. But this one time, my daughter's calling me. I'm talking to my daughter over the phone. She said, "Calling me." I'm calling her, and she was crying. And I said, "Brianna, why are you crying?" She said, "Why don't you come and see me?" And it just shattered my heart because there were so many times, whether the mom would have let me see her or not, but there were so many times that I could have possibly tried to see her, but I'd rather get high than visit my own daughter.
Wow.
And all that reality came and just crushed my spirit at that point in time, broke my heart. Started crying. I didn't want the inmates to see me crying. I slammed down on the phone, ran back to my cell, and just, I knew about God, but I didn't know God, and there's a big difference in that,
Hmm.
And I just said, God, if you're really to have somebody kill me or change me, I can't live with this pain anymore. And
Hmm.
actually, I thought that was kind of the best option for me at that point. I just didn't want to live the way I was living anymore. The pain was that great. And the reality of the shame, the guilt, and all the things that I did getting high bothered me more than the things I did when I was a gangster, so to speak, at
Wow.
that point in my life. And I believed at that point in time, I just kept crying, God, please help me. God, please help me. And I truly believe that God answered the sincerity of the cry of my heart, even though I didn't know a lot about him at that point in time. And then I started reading the Bible.
he gave you some grace, and then you know, to help you get, you know, get to the Bible. Wow.
Yes.